Well, it's 2025 and people are talking about the new iPhone 17 Pro, the regular iPhone and the iPhone Air. But 3 years ago, pre-pandemic, Apple released what could be the best smartphone you can buy today. Obviously, with all the upgrades Apple did to the newest iPhone, we cannot compare this side by side with the latest and the greatest. But today, we will revisit and check out the iconic iPhone 14 Pro. First, let's talk about all the negatives about the iPhone 14 Pro to see if the bad outweighs the good. The first negative is the legacy lightning cable. So obviously, iPhone 15 series everyone moved on from lightning cable to USB Type-C port. This is a welcome addition after 14 series of the iPhone. They were able to embrace a generic USB Type-C port. I think more than a feature, it was mandated by the European Union, so Apple was forced to change it to USB Type-C. But anyways, to make the story short, this one is still using the older lightning cable and charging port. Obviously, the charging speed is slower, so you may find limited accessories and supported devices for the lightning port. The second minus is a smaller base configuration, so the base model will have 128 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM. Obviously, if you compare this with iPhone 17 Pro or even last year's iPhone 16 Pro, you will have bigger RAM. And this year, Apple released the base model starting with 256 gigs of storage. Obviously, with all the useful apps we download on our iPhones, those big updates and upgrades, and obviously the 4K video recording, you may find 128 gigs of storage to be a little small and limited compared to the newer models. The third negative is the battery capacity. So when this was first launched, it has 3200 mAh battery. Now the battery capacity of the new iPhone 17 Pro is over 5000, even bigger than Galaxy S25 Ultra. So you'll know that the newer model will have better battery life, and with that efficient Apple A19 chip, it's very power efficient. Now the A16 Bionic is also power efficient, but again, you cannot beat physical capacity of a bigger battery. And after 3 years, if you buy this phone on a used market, you may find a smaller battery health capacity, and soon you may have battery replacement. The next negative is the shorter upgrade. So obviously Samsung, Google, and Apple will have the longest software support on any of the smartphones. You cannot get away with the age of the phone. It's already 3 years old, so you will have shorter updates on iPhone 14 Pro. The supported iPhones of the latest iOS 26 starts with iPhone 11. So obviously you will have few years of software upgrades and updates for iPhone 14 Pro. It may still be around 4 years or more. And lastly, the aging 12-megapixel ultra-wide. So right now, the camera sensors at the back of the iPhone 17 Pro has all 48-megapixel. They even have 24-megapixel mode on the latest iPhone, which gives you a lot of details on the image. The 12-megapixel ultra-wide of iPhone is really good in terms of image quality and colors, but in terms of details, it's not as good as the latest model. Now, if the negatives are not a deal breaker for you, there are really good things on the iPhone 14 Pro that I could proudly say this might be the best iPhone right now in terms of price to performance ratio. Starting with the great performing Apple A16 Bionic, sure we have A19 Bionic on the latest iPhones and Snapdragon 8 Gen Elite on the latest Android devices like Samsung S25 Ultra, but we cannot deny the fact that A16 Bionic is still the really good chip today, especially if you're comparing this with the latest MediaTek Tensor and even Exynos processors. I would take A16 Bionic any time of the day. On my day-to-day use, I was still able to play the highest graphics and settings on any of the games. I don't feel any hiccups. It rarely stutters because of the limited 6 gigs of RAM, but in terms of the processing power, still hands down to A16 Bionic. Even with future upgrades on the iPhone, I feel like iPhone 14 Pro will not slow down. The next good reason is the display. I don't think you would notice any difference between the older iPhone 14 Pro and the newer iPhone 17 Pro. Sure, you have a brighter screen, but in terms of the technology, iPhone 14 Pro is inferior, but in terms of day-to-day usage, you won't even feel the difference between the latest iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro. It is an LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED with 120Hz refresh rate, so from 1Hz to 120Hz, HDR10 Dolby Vision, and if you're into smaller phones, iPhone 14 Pro only has 6.1-inch screen, so this is technically a small phone compared to the latest iPhone 17 Pro. You can still categorize this phone as a small phone. So again, in terms of the resolution and PPI, you can throw all the numbers, but because of the smaller OLED screen, it can't compete with the latest model. The third positive is a bit controversial just because people upgrade to the latest model of the iPhone because of the design. I still feel that the iPhone 14 Pro has the iconic iPhone design we all love from the past. This year, they changed the cameras and put an island-like camera module at the back. They call it Plateau. We described it as an island at the back. If you hear some of the reviewers and tech enthusiasts, they don't like it. Again, this is a matter of personal preference. Still, you have an option if you want to flaunt that iconic design. Also, I'm not sure if you remember, they first launched iPhone 14 Pro in 2022. It was one of the toughest smartphones and still holds true even in 2025. Our fourth positive is the competitive cameras, all in 4K video recording. The main and the telephoto has the same 48 megapixel sensor that iPhone 17 Pro has. I have the separate camera comparison video of this phone versus iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 16 Pro. If you want to watch it, I will leave the link in the description. In terms of image quality, the colors, the textures, and even the exposure, I wouldn't say there's a difference between the older model and the newer iPhones. Again, everything here is aesthetics and design. You will probably see a difference in functionality like the trigger on the iPhone 16 and a different camera module on the iPhone 17 Pro. But if you can get past that things, the quality of the camera of iPhone 14 Pro is still one of the best in terms of the older iPhones. And the last and probably the best reason is the price. I think with everything iPhone 14 Pro offers compared to the latest iPhone 17 Pro and even last year's 16 Pro, we can probably buy 3 iPhone 14 Pro for a single iPhone 17 Pro, and that saves you a lot of money. With the performance of this phone, great camera, still a lot of software upgrades left. Also the iconic design, pound per pound for around $300 to $400. This is the best iPhone to date.